My brothers, my men, my dudes, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Inside Approach. My name is Jared Luke, and this podcast exists for one reason. It's to help men evolve naturally. I feel as a man, we have been misguided for a very long time, and our identities as men have become a little confusing. So, throughout our episodes, we will be diving into topics and attributes that will guide us back to our design. And my hope is that we can help you discover your individual role and purpose. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Zach Jewell. Zach has become a dear friend and a mentor of mine because he has always had a passion for bringing people together and creating a positive, encouraging space. Zach has served as a youth minister for 8 years, and he did that while he was earning his undergraduate degree in business administration. After transitioning from the nonprofit human services to several years in the for-profit sector, now for some valuable life lessons, Zach has redirected towards his greatest passion, helping others live their best possible life. To date, Zach has gotten his master's in clinical counseling and is now a licensed therapist working with teens and adults in several capacities within the community. Zach is also the founder of Into the Dark Blue, and this is how I met Zach. Into the Dark Blue is a federal non-profit network of men-led mental wellness groups that you can find around the U.S. Its purpose is to help men better understand their emotions, to effectively process the difficult things that men struggle with on a daily basis, build community, and to have a healthy relationship with the things that hold you back from being your best self. Zach, thanks so much for being on with us today. Great to have you, brother.
Absolutely, man. I am so excited to be here. I always love our conversations, just our little one-off conversations we get to have together, and so it's always good to have an excuse to hang out and chat with you for a little bit.
No, I appreciate that, and likewise. I mean, we've known each other now for like 2 years, and every time I get around you or just have an opportunity to be on a Zoom or a phone call, I just always feel fed. It feels like you are truly investing in me, and that's what I really love about what you're doing with your life and your service to people. Into the dark blue. It's just been quite a remarkable journey. So I really appreciate who you are and what you're doing for with your gifts and your talents. So well done.
Nice, man. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, just even in the same vein, like having you as part of the Dark Blue as an ambassador has just been really amazing to see you and your growth. And like, I'm always inspired by your constant like movement and you know just trying to find the right path for your life, and also helping people in different ways as well. And I think that's a big part of why we have these conversations and why we do what we do, is to create connection, community, and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so much we're in a world of division right now. And as men, we like to isolate. And so it's really important for us to have this community, these opportunities to connect with men and grow. So it's been awesome. And I mean, Dark Blue found me at a very dark place in my life. So it's kind of it's awesome that Dark Blue, when I was in this dark abyss, and when I was trying to get out of it, this definitely came at a really good time, and your friendship and mentorship has been extremely valuable. And I would say this last 2 years, it's been a 3-year journey, but the last 2 years of growth have been just awesome. And a lot of that has to come from what you and your organization has done. So I really appreciate that. So thank you so much. But with that, I want to talk a little bit more and give you an opportunity. So for those that don't know, can you tell us a little more about Into the Dark Blue and why you were impressed to organize it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Into the Dark Blue started as just an idea between two friends. Me and my buddy were talking one day about wanting to start a podcast ourselves as well, just as kind of a fun project, something that we could do together. And so we started our podcast in 2019, Into the Dark Blue, and it was based on an inside joke between us. Actually, it was kind of this thing we had between our group of guys that we spent a lot of time with growing up. They ended up becoming our closest friends, the ones that we could share everything with, and spent a lot of our time with, and all that sort of thing. And so Into the Dark Blue was born of that idea of having other guys that you can just talk to about anything. And so as we did our podcast for a little while, we recognized that there could be more potential for actually bringing these conversations into the real world. and giving other people the opportunity to participate in them. And so we created our network of men's groups with Into the Dark Blue that now we have 12 groups around the country. And that actually also includes our first women's group, which we're working on expanding our reach to community in general, and not just men's focused, so we can give anyone the opportunity to participate in some accessible mental health care
Mhm.
and community. So yeah, that's what we do.
No, and you're doing it. You're doing it, brother. It's been awesome. I mean, I think I started, when I first got affiliate, as an ambassador. I mean, what, maybe six? Maybe six groups, maybe a little bit
Yep,
more,
I
but
think we had,
here it's
yeah,
almost like you've
around
doubled.
6 groups. Yep. That
Right.
was
So you've
fun.
doubled in size and just really reaching out to these men and now women and just really helping people. Like you said, the mental part of it. Because a lot of it, it's just that mental shift really goes a long way because it's the foundation, in my opinion, it's the foundation to be able to get into other areas of your life, whether it be the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, the financial. If you got all these blocks up here, it's going to be really hard to grow in those other areas. And so I really love the direction you're taking, and the topics every single month are just they blow my mind. I'm like, wow, that's a really good topic. And to be able to have men come into one room and dive into those topics and
Yep.
be vulnerable is changing things. Is again, men like to isolate, and so to be able to have men open up is huge, and to be able to let them be in touch with their emotions, not be girly, but to be feminine. There's a feminine side to all of us, and there's a masculine side to a woman, to be able to help balance that out so we can actually grow and mature is huge. So well done with that, my friend. Well done with that.
Absolutely. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Well, I know Deb, our Dark Blue is the amazing thing. I mean, why don't you give a little shout out? Where can people learn more about Into the Dark Blue?
Yeah, sure. I mean, simply search www.intothedarkblue.com. If you go to Google and search Into the Dark Blue, it should come up with our social media, our website, all of these things. You can listen to the podcast from the website, Spotify, or Apple. I think Amazon even has it too. So you have a lot of options to listen to the podcast. And it's been a while since we recorded an episode because we've been focusing on these men's groups and, all of that. So hopefully we can pick that up again soon. But yeah, you can find groups on our website. So all the different groups that we host. And if you're watching this and you have an interest in leading a group, then you can also contact us on the website there as well. And you don't have to be professional by any means. These groups are peer led. It's just any men or women who have interest in leading a group in their community and want to show up for the people in their community. That's all it takes, is just a desire to make a difference.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, we got a great group, guys, and one woman. So it's really cool to be able to get everybody together. So it was interesting. Just I would typed in Into the Dark Blue on my Google search today, and I even misspelled it, and it still pulled up as number one. So people, listeners, it's really easy to find. So really easy to find. So I appreciate that.
Good.
Well, as
I'm
you can
glad
tell
my
by our
SEO
shirts.
strategies are
Oh,
working.
say that one more time. I'm sorry.
And I'm glad my SEO strategies are working.
Exactly. Well, definitely Into the Dark Blue is something we want to talk about today, but as you can see by our shirts, we're actually going to be talking about the topic of focus. Focus is super huge in today's world, and let's talk about Into the Dark Blue one more time. And I mean, Zach, in your opinion, how does Into the Dark Blue help men focus on what actually matters in life?
Honestly, one of the biggest aspects of it, I think, is just building community around the concept of mental wellness and having people actually support you to express yourself and learn how to be your authentic self. The whole idea is to just gather together and do our own personal work in a group, in a room together, where we can encourage each other in the work that we're doing. And so this helps to bring focus in terms of having some accountability and some people that you can rely on to be there for you, and help you to really continue to hit on the parts of your life that you're really wanting to grow in. If you're always trying to do it yourself, the focus can be really difficult because you are all over the place trying to do your job and your family and all of the things that need to happen, right, to make life function. And so it's easy to stay on the surface. And as long as we stay on the surface and we don't get to that foundation and what's actually really what we're really built on, what we're standing on, then there is no real focus.
No, I love that. I mean, in order to get past the surface, to get to our true, our authentic self. It's really easy to just go through the routines of life, right? The mundane, just check boxes like, well, I did my job. I fed the family. I did my chores, just to be able to do these surface level. I went to the gym and, lifted one weight, It's easy to kind of just coast through these things and say you're focused, but yet at the same time, we're just kind of dancing on that surface level. I like how you said that because now it's a matter of getting to the root and really getting down to what really is the focus, with each of us. So I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I love that. Love that. What would you say? What are some examples of these distractions that are stealing men's focus today, and why do you think they're stealing? What are those distractions doing? I mean,
Oh man,
let's really dive into this one.
that's a big question, man.
And you're the man
um,
for the job, right?
yeah. So I mean, we can go so many different directions with that, and I spend a lot of time thinking about these things because there's always this question of like, are we self-sabotaging, or are we in a society that's designed so we can't focus on ourselves, right? And so, what kind of messages are we receiving from the world that teach us that we shouldn't focus on ourselves, that we shouldn't better ourselves, that we should just tick the boxes that you were talking about, right? And so I think, a big part of it is finding that balance of recognizing, what messages am I hearing from the world around me? And also, what are my values and things that are really important to me? Because I think without the connection to our own values and just going off of what we're told by other people, then it's kind of hard to focus on our own fulfillment and our own real like power, what we can achieve if we're constantly trying to um, tick the boxes that other people have put upon us.
I like that. We're getting pulled so many different directions by gurus. It's like, all right, which one do I listen to? And we just keep dancing and dancing and dancing. And it's a matter of what aligns with you. And I like that. What you said, your values, where your values at. Because I mean, if we think about it, we are the combined average of the five people we hang out with the most. But if we're listening to 20 people, 200 people on social media, then we are being pulled so many different directions, and we can't be that average. We're just going to be tossed to and fro, and we know that scripture says, we're just being in the wind here, and so it's a matter of being focused with what we want to be, what's focused in alignment with our values. So I like how you said that. What would be what if we were to talk about some distractions? 'Cause I want to really try to get into some, like, not get into it, but what in just in your experience that you've been working with working with youth, working with men, working in your field, what have you seen would be maybe like the top one or two distractions that men find themselves just, falling victim of?
For sure. I think one of the biggest ones is definitely escapism.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever read Brave New World, but the Soma Holiday. So in Brave New World, it's a futurist like sci-fi novel,
Okay.
and it basically kind of outlines what society might look like in the future, right? Far in the future. And so one of the things that it talks about is a Soma Holiday, which is essentially a drug that's provided that by the state that people can use to feel good or whatever. So, I mean, we have so many methods of escapism, and I mean, we've got drugs, alcohol, TV, porn, um, gambling, um, anything basically that you can overconsume, right? Hobbies, right? I know guys who go fishing in every free moment that they have, and they're just constantly escaping from their families and their responsibilities when they have a free moment, right? So I think escapism is definitely one of the biggest ones. And then the other one is also performance for other people. And so I think we tend to get so focused on doing right, being good, right? And we often lose ourselves in that process, and we stop focusing on ourselves because we're trying to perform to get the money, get the promotion, get the accolades, all of these things that are all we're being, because we need that, um, we need to be affirmed by other people for our identity instead of affirming ourselves and our own identity.
Guilty on both those. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, that's truth. I mean, I've said reflect on, my journey, even today's journey, I'm still finding myself distracted. It's like, all right, let's just scroll a little bit longer. Or, it's time to go to bed, but instead of focusing on my health, let me just doze off, onto a little episode or something like that. Find these distractions that are easy to keep you from what you're really focused in on. And so that
Hmm.
escapism, that's a true one because yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to distract. I love the examples you gave, and then being able to shoot for the approval of others. Really striving for that versus going back to the values. We're trying to chase after this versus taking care of what we really need to take care of that matches our values. So I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think too, we live in this society that tells us that we deserve to escape. We deserve, like, oh, you worked so hard today, you deserve a beer. You deserve to
Mhm.
sit down and watch the TV for 3 hours, and so we get it in our minds that it's like a reward for doing the thing that we're told we have to do to make the money to pay the bills. And so so we get stuck in a cycle, and
Sure.
that definitely breaks focus.
Breaks the focus. No, there's the key word right there. I love that. So we're talking about authenticity, finding, sticking up with your values and stuff like that. So as we allow these distractions to come in, would you agree that we're really kind of avoiding ourselves with these
Oh,
distractions as well?
100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I know you kind of listed, hey, we're avoiding our responsibilities, we're avoiding our families, we're doing that, but or in a sense, I mean, we're also avoiding ourselves, and our needs and
Mhm.
what our really is. And so it's a matter of like, oh, this is what I need. No, we're distracting ourselves from what we really need with a want, right? We got
Yep.
that whole balance of needs and wants. Now, it's important to get needs and wants, but again, we're avoiding ourselves. And what kind of effect can that have on a man? If we start avoiding ourselves and what our needs are, what kind of effects can that have on a man?
Oh, so many. I mean, if you set yourself up for a life that you are not proud of or you're disappointed in, right? Then you are immediately going to find yourself in that need to escape. And so if you find yourself in a relationship that actually isn't working for you, but you feel some kind of pressure to continue forward in that relationship for some reason, like, oh, well, I need to get married, I need to have kids, and there's these expectations coming in from the outside that are telling you that you need to do this and that. And you put yourself in a position where you're unfulfilled, you're unhappy because whatever you are bringing into your life doesn't match your values, right? Then we end up distracted. We end up unhappy because we're avoiding admitting to ourselves that we have just built this life that we have no desire for.
No, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And so
Really,
what's
oh,
that?
I was going to say the only person we have to blame for those experiences is ourselves.
Really, truly, truly. I mean, all of our choices in life led up to where we are right now, right?
Absolutely.
So we are the
Yep,
only ones to blame.
for
It's
sure.
not necessarily too many of the choices of other people. I mean, they do have consequences, but still, our choices, once, especially when we get into adulthood, those choices, dictate where we're at or why we're here, where we're at right now at this time. As far as some emotions, do you feel that men also try to escape emotions?
Honestly, I feel like in my experience that men aren't actually taught their emotions.
Good. Okay.
I think I don't know that they necessarily avoid them. Maybe some do, but I think in large part, men aren't taught their emotions. They aren't taught how to express their emotions. In therapy, I use the emotion wheel pretty regularly,
Good.
and
Huge. Love that thing.
most often, I use that emotion wheel with men and teenagers, because many of them don't have the emotional vocabulary, or emotional intelligence to be able to express what they're actually feeling. They can express the physical feeling, but they can't express the emotion that goes along with it.
And I think that has a lot to do with focus, right? It
Hmm.
really does, is because if we are only focused on if we're focused on limited emotions, it limits our ability to perform. And
Hmm.
so if we can focus on getting that emotional, vocabulary, being emotionally literate, allows us to be able to focus on these emotions, to be able to then act on these emotions properly. I mean, growing up, I saw my dad as happy, content, or mad.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I was like, okay,
Sounds
those
about
are the
right.
emotions of a man. Right? So I was like, all right, so let me duplicate that. And it wasn't until later on as a father, I'm like, is there more to this? I wanted to discover more so I could expand my focus and
Yeah.
understand how to be a better father, how to, set them up for, being a little more emotional, a little more mature, but to be able to process these emotions that are going on versus like, what is going on inside my body? I don't know. Let's just Hulk out and go crazy. So love that.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Now, what about, I would say, I mean, a lot of people say they're busy. Do you get that a lot? Like, oh my gosh, it just feels like I'm so overwhelmed, so busy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that? Because they say they're busy, so they're like, I'm focusing, I'm so busy
Mm-hmm.
focusing. What would be some recommendations? Because I know I fall victim of that. I mean, there's times in my life that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 100 doors in front of me, and I feel like I'm just knocking on all of them every single day.
Yeah.
That eventually I had to say, okay, that's enough because it was stressing me out. I had to like, start pushing those doors down.
Hmm.
How would you handle that? I'm busy, I'm really focused, but I'm so busy all the time. What kind of advice you got for that?
Well, I would I would venture to say that if you're overly busy, that you're not actually focused.
Love that.
And I say that
Good point. Yeah,
because,
yeah.
if we're putting too much on our plate, how are we actually giving quality focus to any one thing in our lives? And I think that's something I even had to learn for myself over the years, because I was constantly in performance mode trying to get the approval of other people, right? I was definitely one of those guys. I was trying to get approval from other people because growing up I was constantly belittled and, underestimated and things like that. And so throughout my 20s and early 30s, I was definitely trying to compensate for that and prove people wrong, right? And so I put way too much on my plate and I was constantly moving, and at the same time I was forgetting appointments, and I was, not responding to friends, and I was,
Right.
doing all of these things. And, I'm realizing in this conversation that focus and values go very much hand in hand, because if you don't know what your values are and you don't know what's really truly important to you, then you can't focus on any one thing.
Dude, that's huge. I agree. It reminded me of a couple weeks ago at church, the pastor was talking about stress, and how to deal with stress on on a spiritual level, right? But he's
Hmm.
saying that stress comes, from, outside sources, right? People could put stress on us. We can overstress things in our head by overthinking them. The
Hmm.
other third stress, he had names for all these things, but I'm not as smart as you. The other stress is the stress that we keep adding more things onto our plate.
Hmm.
Right. And so again, and he talked about how, I'm going to get a little spiritual here for those, that are more on the spiritual side of this
Hmm.
listeners, is that the devil isn't trying to make you become a criminal. He's just trying to keep you from being good. And
Hmm.
if he can distract you, and if he can add more stressors into your life, it's going to keep you from doing what's important in your values and bring it back to what you've been saying. It keeps you from focusing on your values and your true authentic self.
For
So
sure.
you love what you're saying there,
Well,
brother. Love what you're saying there.
and with that, if you think about Jesus 40 days in the desert being tempted by the devil, right?
Hmm.
And devil is trying to take him away from his values,
Perfect.
presenting all these other opportunities for him, to get all of the worldly things or whatever,
Yeah.
right? I feel like that's a really great image for focus, is like
Huge.
maintaining your values and being focused on those things, right? You can say no to the temptations. You can move away from those temptations that are going to keep you unfulfilled and they're going to keep you unhappy, and leaning towards the expectations of others instead of being okay with yourself.
No, that's perfect. Great reference and good stuff, dude. Love it. Glad we're recording this. This is so good.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too. Great conversation so far.
so let me ask you, Zach, when did you, is there a time in your life that you realized that you were living more distracted than intentional?
Oh, absolutely. Up
Or
until
so?
about
Yeah,
five
go for
years
it. Oh, all
ago.
right, there you go. Good. Do you mind sharing a little bit more to help our listeners kind of understand what
Yeah.
you've been
Oh, for
through?
sure, for sure. So, I grew up in the church.
Okay.
I grew up being there's literally the first Sunday my mom could take me to church out of the hospital, she did. And so, I grew up in all of that. I was in church until I was about 26 years old. And so, like Jared said at the beginning, I did some youth my early 20s, basically 18 to 26. I was a youth minister. And all of this, until I was about 35, 36, I didn't realize that so much of what I was doing was to make other people happy, um, and or to prove people wrong, like I was saying. And so as I was going through, getting married for the first time, becoming a youth minister, switching over to working for Amazon for several years, all of these things was all for other people. And so it wasn't until 2020 when I realized I'd been living my entire life for other people instead of myself. And all of the depression and lethargy and um, like, I guess, sloth, they call it, would come because I was not performing how I thought others were expecting me to. So I would get depressed, thinking I wasn't measuring up, thinking I wasn't living up to what people wanted me to live up to. And so 2020 is when I left Amazon and I started the Dark Blue. And it was the first time I did something that was purely just for me, because it was something that I felt called to, that I felt was important for me. And before that, it was like going to Seattle and like little baby steps here and there that I was taking to be myself, my authentic self, right? But yeah, when I left that paycheck behind and all of those things, and started the Dark Blue, that was the first time I was truly living in my authentic self in more ways than ever.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it went from kind of going just doing the routine, doing the day to day, doing what you're doing, but basically with the wrong intentions, right? Or with
Hmm.
the intention of trying to please others versus being authentic and to your values and your purpose and what you feel that you were put on this earth to do. You just stayed distracted, for many,
Yep.
many years. And I know I've met tons of people. I mean, in my own experience, I mean, I jumped from job to job to job and just feeling unfulfilled, right? It's like I always felt this burn to serve people.
Hmm.
And, I was like, every time I went to a job, I always said, what's next? What's next? What's next? To try to like grow, kind of climb that corporate ladder or whatever it is, uh,
Right.
to look good, look presentable, to bring home a decent paycheck. And it was always just chasing after that little shiny little carrot every single day.
Yep.
But I wasn't being fulfilled. So yeah, I really love how you felt that and that you made that shift and you were willing to make those sacrifices, to evolve. It's
Hmm.
almost like you had to go through your little caterpillar phase to a cocoon, in order to become that butterfly. And we need to make those choices in our lives is what choice do we need to make to put ourselves in that cocoon, that refining process to go after our purpose more, go after our
Yeah.
goals more and be focused on what we really want, what's going to bring us the inner joy Is that
Absolutely.
safe to say? Is that pretty safe
Oh,
what you're saying?
100%. Yeah,
I
completely
love it.
agree. Like you used a really great word there. And it was, um, oh my gosh, I just blanked on it. It was so good. But
We'll watch the recording and come back to this conversation. I'm just kidding.
yeah, right.
Which
Yeah.
part?
But anyway, like you were mentioning like oh, sacrifice. That's what it was. Sacrifice is such an important word in this whole conversation because another thing that I find in all of the people that I've talked to over the years is that people tend to get comfortable, right?
Hmm.
And comfort meaning it's not threatening. They know what to expect, right? So even if it's painful, comfort, like if it's a painful experience, they're in an abusive relationship or they're in a job that's taking them nowhere, right? It's monotonous and mundane and they know what to expect. And so a lot of people end up so afraid of the discomfort that comes with sacrifice that they don't ever move into the change, the shift
Right.
that
Right.
gets them where they actually want to be, because they'd rather deal with the painful experiences that they can plan. They don't have to like. There's no guesswork, right?
Right.
There's no guesswork. They can just well. I know if this happens, then my partner is gonna say this or that, and it's gonna hurt my feelings. But like, at least it's at least it's the norm.
Right.
And so we stay in these patterns and we stay in these patterns until we learn to recognize them and understand how we're contributing to that comfort. Familiarity is what I like to call it instead of comfort. And so anyway, yeah, that willingness to face your fear of the unknown is, I think, another definitely another important part of focus.
Yes. No, 100%. I mean, if no, I don't even know what to add to that. It's just if it's either you sacrifice now or you're going to sacrifice later, and
Hmm.
that's the scariest thing is you get to choose when the sacrifice comes,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it's either you're going to choose it now or it's going to catch up with you later. And
Yep. Yep.
I'd rather do it now. I mean, I'm 47. I'd
Hmm.
rather do it now than when I'm 74.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I'm having to make the sacrifices then, it's going to be a whole lot harder. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
evolving now, I mean, this is the whole purpose of this podcast is to help men evolve naturally
Hmm.
now, not down the road. Now, where do we need to
Yeah.
focus? Now, where do we need to make sacrifices? Now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
No. So no, I can tell that affected you, right? I can tell that concept affected you. And that's exactly it. Is like we don't spend time thinking about these things. We avoid these conversations. We avoid these topics, right?
There's
Because of the fear.
distractions because we go
Right.
fishing or we play video
Well,
games or whatever. Good.
so what sacrifices would you say that you're afraid of right now?
Mine personally, I'm
Yeah.
interviewing you. What are you interviewing me for? Here goes the therapist in you. No, I'm just kidding with you. I mean, my biggest thing is I've always had the imposter syndrome, right? I'm really working on that tremendously. It's like I don't feel like I'm good enough, and so that's why I withhold me from doing the next step. And so it took me a long time. I mean, I envisioned doing this podcast 4 years ago, right? 4 years ago. But
Yeah.
because of that self-doubt and that, these challenges of life that came my way, I just like use those as excuses and use
Hmm.
them as distractions to take away from my focus. I mean, I felt impressed to do this. I mean, into the inside approach came a long time ago.
Hmm.
But at the same time, there were still lessons that I had to learn, but I started making little sacrifices. It wasn't a drastic sacrifice I had to make. I made little sacrifices. Okay, I need to let this part of me go. I need to let go of this ego. I need to let go of this relationship. I need to put myself in this situation versus this situation. And it helped me to focus, to be more aligned with my values.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
love
No,
it.
I had a similar experience with Into the Dark Blue. Like even though I made the shift and I made the sacrifice, right? it doesn't mean I was ready for it. Right? Like it was a similar thing. Like it was something that I'd wanted to do for years. But there was always the, well, what if I don't make enough money? What if I end up homeless? What if it doesn't work out and it just completely fails? What am I going to do after that? Because who am I? Who am I if this thing fails?
Right.
Right? And so those lessons that I learned throughout the years, and it's same kind of situation where like years built up to it that finally got me to the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to move. I'm ready to do this, right? And so I made the jump, and even then, I had so many things about myself that I needed to learn, and I'm still learning things every day about business, about people, about all of these things that I definitely needed to make the jump to learn, you know?
Right.
And I think it's also helped with that rejection sensitivity and that like that self-doubt of like, okay, I can do this hard thing, right? I made the shift, I made the jump, and I'm doing the hard thing. And when it comes down to it, like focus is such a big part of that resilience, right?
Very much. Very
Like
much.
if you're focused on something and you're really passionate about it, and you know that this is what's going to fulfill you, then that creates resilience. And when you're
Ooh,
resilient because you're
strong.
passionate about something, then you're going to focus so hard.
Dude, that's a flex right there. Boom! You just nailed that. I like that a lot. Ooh, that gave me that got me all amped up right there,
Got
Zach.
you
That was
going,
a great one, dude. That was a good one.
huh?
I know a lot of, I mean, I know the expression that you used is you just got to jump, and a lot of people are scared to jump, because
Mhm.
it's such a big idea of this concept. I mean, obviously, for those that aren't ready to jump, let's just take a step, right?
Mhm.
It's just like,
Yep.
let's take a step. Let's draw a line in the sand, as we've heard numerous times, draw a line in the sand and just step over one. Get one foot in, one foot out for now. You
Mhm.
might bounce a little bit, but at least you're making that step. If we circle back to our very first podcast, our very first episode, we talked about ambition. And ambition, it just means you're just striving to become a little bit better. And the challenge that I gave then, the challenge I'll give now, and maybe you can agree with this, and or maybe give another challenge is just grow 1% a week, a month. It's still taking you to the right direction instead of just kind of coasting on through. Because I mean,
Mhm.
over time, 1% compound interest, it's going to shoot up. And so if we're constantly
Yep.
growing, because we're either growing or we're dying, so it depends on what we're focused on. If we just live the mundane, we're focused on dying. If we're
Mhm.
focused on growth and stepping over that line, we're focused on living.
Yeah, 100%. It's and I literally just saw a video on this yesterday about how our brain actually wires itself for negativity or positivity based
Mm,
off of how we talk and what we surround ourselves with, right? And so biologically, our brain actually rewires itself to be more negative or positive focused, depending on the choices that we make, the things we decide
mhm.
to talk about, surround ourselves with, and all of that.
Yeah, I did
Um,
oh, good. Sorry,
Oh,
finish.
no, 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 you're good.
Yeah, I did a post yesterday about being delusionally positive.
Okay, yep.
Right.
I like
Be
it.
delusional in the positive. Just go so crazy. Think about the positive and watch what happens.
Yep. See how your
Because
life
we
changes.
do. It's the same thing. We get so delusionally on the negative. Yeah, we're going to see negative, but we just are looking and thinking positive. We're going
Mm-hmm.
to find it. The doors that will open, that focus, that clarity that will come. I mean, it's like we're living so much like this. And if we just
Yep.
get that positive, that focus, it just opens up a whole new world for us. Whole new
Absolutely.
world.
So true. So
So
yeah, I
let,
mean,
oh, good.
if I were to offer a challenge, I think the biggest thing out of this conversation that I would offer would be to really take some time to figure out your values, not the church's values, not your mom's values, not your wife's values. None of that. Not your dad's. Your values. What is important to you? What are you passionate about, and why?
Keep going, brother. Keep going. We're gonna end on this. Keep going with that because I think this is a great way to close. Why? Dig deep on this one.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean the closer you get to your own values, the more focused you're going to be on your life. And what happens then is people start seeing that in you. People will see that authenticity in you, you being yourself instead of trying to people please constantly, do things for everyone else the way everyone else thinks they need to be done. And the more they see that in you, the more you're going to attract people into your life that align with those values, and it's going to happen very naturally. You're not going to have to force it. You're going to be able to be your true self without having to perform, and you're going to have people in your life who support that.
My brothers, my men, my dudes, we have just been fed by the one, the only, the Zach Jewell. Brother, it has been an honor to talk with you once again. Thank you so
Likewise.
much for just being you, being your authentic self, finding your authentic self to be able to now give, back to people. And so loved having you on the call. Thank you on the
Yep.
podcast today. Thank you so much, brother. And again, who can finding people for help people find you? What's a good place for people to find you?
To find me,
Yep.
I mean, you can contact me through the Into the Dark Blue website. I also have a company called Tree of Life Education. We do art and poetry workshops for teenagers in corporate settings. You can find me through that on social media, Tree of Life Education. And if you really just want to connect with me personally, my Instagram is Breaking of Light, and so you can reach out to me there, and be glad to get to know anybody who wants to come introduce themselves. So, and I appreciate you having me on today. I'm usually on the other side doing the interviewing, so it felt really good to practice the opposite.
No, my friend, you have done amazing. So outstanding. And yeah, my followers, listen, reach out, follow this man. You will be richly blessed for everything he shares. So thank you again, and thank everybody for being on the podcast today.
Yep. Have a good day.